And welcome to Founders Copilot podcast. I'm Jeff Hulett, founder of Personal Finance Reimagined. At PFR, we are obsessed with the journey of the entrepreneur. Through our Founders Copilot services, we partner with builders to help them navigate the complex path of turning a vision into a sustainable wealth building business. The reason we are so excited to interview entrepreneurs on the show is that we believe the pre-scale phase is really where the magic happens. It's that unique window where a founder is validating the demand, they're validating their focus on the market, and they're making some critical decisions that define their future. We love the grit, the curiosity, and the systems thinking that goes into these early stages. That's exactly why I'm thrilled to have Justin Wilson with us today. Justin is right in the thick of this journey right now. He's taking a classic analog business like vending and vending machines, which he'll talk about in a little bit, and he's reinventing them through data and smart systems. But before we dive into the nuts and bolts of the business, Justin, hey, I'd just love to hand it over to you for a moment. For our audience, could you introduce yourself and give us a little bit of your background?
Definitely. And thanks for having me, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very excited to have this conversation and to share this with everyone. Like you said, my name's Justin Wilson. I'm a former collegiate player. I played professionally, and now I'm taking my journey from the soccer field onto the business, the suit and ties, and into the business realm. And I'm very excited to very much do so with vending.
Well, that's fantastic. And just so everyone knows too, I've known Justin for a long time. Other than entrepreneurship, Justin's soccer journey is very tied into some of my children's soccer journey. My son Daniel, he played soccer with Justin as well. I know what a wonderful striker Justin is, and I was so glad to see him make that jump into the professional ranks. And now, Justin, you are you also coach soccer, right? So this entrepreneurship is really tied into another part of your passions. Could you tell us a little bit about that too?
Yeah, definitely. The natural kind of progression from being a player going into coaching is, just going and being around the game and sharing that love and that memories that I was able to have, not only with Jeff here, but with his son Daniel and with the multiple teammates who I've had over the time. And, I've been very fortunate enough to work with a professional club now, Loudoun United, and to have the opportunity to attain my UEFA B license through the Welsh Federation. So I'm now able to provide, better services to anybody who I connect with to hopefully make them the best player that they can be, or to maximize their enjoyment with the game that's given me so much.
Well, I love that, Justin. It makes me think of now and kind of transitioning into entrepreneurship, but it's like this combination. You have the sort of job where you can be very focused on the athletes and leading your teams and the licensing like you talked about, but also it gives you a little bit of time also to be able to think entrepreneurially. And I for a lot of us, for a lot of people that are working, more of the kind of job that wouldn't leave room for that, I think that's very special. And so thank you so much for that background. And I just want to jump in with just a quick question, more to do with sort of how you even got started. Because I'll be honest with you, Justin, when I talk to entrepreneurs, part of the challenge is, well, what is the it, right? Well, right. What is it that I think would be an interesting entrepreneurial opportunity? A lot of people talk about, I'd love to be my own boss and stuff like that. But that's one thing. But then the whole other thing of actually doing it, right, is a completely different thing. So I was just wondering, was there like a specific aha moment when you saw the vending industry and just went, oh my God, this could be it? And what was it about the entrepreneurial path that kind of keeps you motivated?
Yeah, definitely. I think starting off, I like to say I have a slogan. It's to work less and earn more. And certainly when you're in the professional soccer field or collegiate realm, you are accustomed and you're trained to work hard. I built my career off knowing that I'm going to give 100% in everything that I do and to always work my hardest. Now, when you get into coaching now, it's very demanding. It's very time consuming. Your afternoons, your evenings, your weekends, you're a someone who's been in the travel community, anyone out there who's in travel sports, it's very demanding and your schedule is very set. And over time, as I've been an athlete, I've been accustomed to a lifestyle of being able to buy what I want, do what I want. And there's only so much time in the day. And given that the commitment that soccer is, I wanted to be able to work a little bit smarter in the way that I was attaining my capital, because through the multiple side hustles that you can do with coaching, the most common is private lessons. Through private lessons, you're charging an hourly rate for your services. However, at the end of the day, to charge whatever you charge, you have to be good at what you do, and you have to pay attention to detail and provide a certain product. And not necessarily saying I didn't enjoy that, but I felt like there was a better way to use my time. And so well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say just something that just popped into my head. I the way you describe that, Justin, I think of the word leverage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, if you are coaching, your side hustle, having a private lesson, so it's one athlete or maybe one or two athletes, but a small number of athletes, your 1 hour time equals whatever you're charging for that professional service, right? Which is fine, which is great. But that is also relatively deleveraged, right? You only have but so many hours in the day, and you can only do but so many times. And of course, you have to be excellent at it, which is of course a given, which I know you are. So that's kind of where my head went, was, did the vending business or just entrepreneurship in general have as much to do with thinking about leverage, right? Like, how do I get more out of my time?
Exactly. No, that's literally exactly it. And that's what I wanted to do. And for myself, how time consuming the sports industry, the hobby can be, I was like, whatever my side hustle, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. And now I'm like, how can I maximize, my time in terms of being still very good at providing an excellent service for my job, soccer, but also now in a side hustle that can excite me and be something, a boss of my own. And what stuck out to me was not necessarily saying that vending is something that requires 2 hours of your time. It's much more than that, but it's a service that when we're coming down to earning dollars and earning money, you don't have to physically be there. You can service a machine potentially once a week, depending on your location. It could be once every 2 weeks, right? And so now you're able to use your brain power and work virtually in terms of the systems that you set up, the structure of your business. And so it doesn't physically require you to be there, or it requires maybe 2 to 3 hours a day of logistics and planning that you can still put towards earning money all at the same time, with you not having to physically be with your vehicle, your cash.
Okay, so let's dig into that a little bit, Justin, because you used a word that I use and I really love, the whole notion of business system, right? Mm-hmm. And really, it certainly goes beyond passive income. I actually kind of hate the word passive income because I don't think that actually is a thing, but people use it all the time. You work too hard for the passive, right?
Exactly.
But tell me a little bit about it. So you're at the beginning of a journey.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now. Like, how are you stress testing it? Like, how are you learning and then using that learning to build that business system?
Yeah, and I definitely, when it comes down to it, is the one word I'd use if I was you is efficiency. Because within your business system and setting it up, the goal in vending is to not have one machine. Currently, I have one starting out, but the real money in this business is to scale. And, we've had previous conversations about, having a business system, and things that I'm currently focusing on trying to be the most efficient that I can be are how many times am I visiting the machine and I'm replenishing my inventory? How am I staying on top of keeping track of my warehouse inventory and my in-machine current inventory, right? And automating these processes to where I don't have to check in on the machine and update inventory all at the same time, to where when I scale it, now I am able to efficiently track the in-house inventory and my in-machine inventory, to where now I can visit multiple locations and keep track of basically what products is being sold, so I can save as much time as possible updating the inventory, because that has been something that has turned into quite a challenge for me, staying on top of replenishing machines, making sure the software that you're using is not bugging out, that you're inputting the right information, that you don't have to reset. Because through systems, if you input the wrong data and in your software it says that you're at 5 Snickers bar, but if you didn't, but in reality you're at 8 Snickers bar, now I'm not being efficient with my time in my system, because I'm having to replenish a snack that doesn't have to be replenished. So
are you saying, Justin, that sometimes just the data is not quite accurate?
100%. That is a very common, because as much as I'd like to say how amazing I am not perfect, and mistakes happen. And so what I've just kind of started thinking about, especially after our conversations, are what systems am I putting in place and that I'm learning to operate, so that as I can grow in my machines, I'm minimizing my error. I'm minimizing the cost of my mistake. So
that makes a lot of sense. I mean, well, now, and I'm just curious, is there a standard software that basically comes, you buy the machine, you get the software, or is this something that you had to seek out to get it? And I guess what it makes me think about is, if it's not very accurate, it makes you wonder if, well, there's just there's better mousetraps, so to speak.
And here's the answer to that question. There is not. There are 2 main systems that you can use for your data, that your telemetry data that comes from your machine to your software. It's Cantaloupe and Nitax, and those are basically the 2. They're both not great. I have had to wait. I've spent about 2 hours total between 2 separate calls where I'm waiting for an hour trying to talk to someone. The onboarding process for my payment systems has been something that I had to learn from. I lost almost a week in sales because I wasn't onboarded, my device wasn't connected, and so those things can be very frustrating. And that was something I was not aware of. Till when you have your code that is transferred into, let's say, my system Cantaloupe, that's raw binary data. That's column A1 is column 0010 within the Cantaloupe data. Now, in order to be more efficient in my business system, I need to have a separate software to where 001 A1 is now transferred into the snack that I currently have, a Snickers bar. And so what software I use for that is Vending. And so through there, I'm able to track inventory. I'm able to track locations.
So you did find a better software, I guess.
It's not. I still have to use both, because Vendisoft doesn't get data from my machine straight there. I have to use both.
Well, you know what I just thought of?
What'd you think,
Justin? Because I know your background is in computer information systems. I think that's your next entrepreneurial gig. Is if you're struggling with the software, we guarantee that most other people do too. So
yeah,
maybe it's let's get the vending machine business up and running, and then we'll start the vending machine software business.
100%. I think that could be a very profitable one, because I have spent hours on forums, and it is it's a learning. I think anything with information systems and software, you're learning a new language. That's essentially what it is. And to have someone you don't have to wait an hour to talk to, that can troubleshoot your problems or provide an efficient enough system. Whoo!
Yeah, well, that's where I'm thinking. I think of like the Steve Jobs Apple UI UX, right? Like he couldn't imagine, having that challenge, right? It should be anybody can use it, and it sounds like to me that's just not the way it works. So
I think
anyway, not that I'm looking to create another business for you, but I can't help but think about stuff
I
like
don't
that.
mind.
All right, Justin. So we've talked a little bit about this, but as you know, I'm very much of a behavioralist. I'm a behavioral economist. I know more than I should probably about behavioral psychology. We teach it in my class at JMU. So one of the things that really fascinates me about this isn't, we talked a little bit about the data that's available, but I'm thinking more of it in the context of behavior, like the behavior of what kind of snacks do people like, or how do people put value on the food that they might purchase from a vending machine, or even how do you bundle things together to optimize, your overall revenue and maximize, of course, the utility of your customers. So anyway, I'm just curious, have you, or how do you think about that, or how might you thinking about that in the future?
Yeah, I think one thing that people don't think about, I would title onto, you're kind of, when you're a vending machine operator, you're kind of a behavioral analyst, because that's what drives your sales. You have to pay attention to what the people are purchasing around you, and you have to provide that service, basic supply and demand. Now, well, what a lot of people don't think about when they think of a vending machine business, they think that the actual vending machine is the business. However, I would argue that the location is the business, because that is what can drive consumer behavior, is where particularly you're placing the machine and where it's located and what industry it's in. Because all these things take into account the convenience fee, how you pay it in the airport. You pay that because it's the convenience. The amusement parks, it's a convenience. Just like if you have a vending machine in a hair salon and you're there getting your hair braided and you're there for 3 hours, instead of going to a 7-Eleven across the street, can I just take 2 minutes to get up, stretch my legs, and maybe grab a quick snack? So you start there, right? And you analyze what the demands of the location are. So for myself and how I started, when I'm in a beauty salon that, it's a suite that offers about 4 or 5 services. And so for my initial investment for my first inventory, not going to lie, I went to ChatGPT. I said, hey, I am going to a hair salon that offers these XYZ services. What do you think these people would offer? And then I have a mother, a couple homegirls of mine. I say, hey, when you're here, what do you purchase? And then finally I go to the owner of the business who was providing snacks for a service. Hey, what worked for you? What did you provide? Right. And so you gather all this consumer data, and then now you have to make an educated best guess on what to provide in your service. And so at first, what I determined was I had, for example, I had Nutri-Grain bars and the Nature Valley bars, right? And then I had the assortment of chips and snacks or candy. Now, as I go, I haven't sold one Nutri-Grain bar to date. I took this out. However, my chips and my candy have been my biggest sellers. So now,
shocking, right?
Exactly,
Shocking.
right?
Sugar sells.
Exactly. And so now what do you do with this data? And so for myself, I'm like, interesting. My Snickers, my Kit Kats, my Gatorade have been my biggest sellers, my sugary, my drinks. And so I go to my best friend, ChatGPT. Hey, these are my top 5 sellers in the first 3 weeks. What does that tell me about my consumers, and how can I optimize my snacks? Right?
Surround them with diabetes.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Hey, I have water too. You can work it off.
Right. Wow.
Exactly. And
well, that what makes me think of is like what I just heard you say was like 3 tiers. I'm just summarizing a little bit. Like tier 1 is location. If you get that right, it almost makes tier 2 and tier 3 like okay. But if you get tier 1 right, it makes it a lot easier to get tier 2 and tier 3 right. Tier 2 is that preliminary work, doing your due diligence, doing research. Certainly, I like the idea. Talk to people that buy the service. Talk to the owner of the service. Talk to customers of that service, and make your best guess. So that's like tier 2, and then tier 3 is test and learn.
Yeah.
Right. And like you said, you thought Nutri-Grain bars, and I do wonder, like, did somebody tell you, oh yeah, I'd love a Nutri-Grain bar, but really what it came down to was, you know, voting with your feet
Yeah.
instead of voting with your brain. My brain tells me I should like Nutri-Grain bars, but actually I don't behave that way.
Yeah.
So, I always find that interesting. People, how they want to be versus how they are obviously often very different. So
Yeah.
anyway, no, that is I love that.
Yeah.
And it sounds like over time that could get more sophisticated, and especially if you start gathering more data, getting a better sort of arms around like how that data system works. And I don't know, it just sounds pretty interesting to me.
I'll add on to that, and I'll say, so within the suite there's a tattoo apartment, right?
Okay.
And a room. And so I actually was able to have a conversation with him. And he's like, oh, we just strike up a small talk. And I asked him what he likes. Is there anything he would like that he doesn't see? And he actually gave me pretty good insight. He said, actually, I like the Coke, I like the Snickers for a quick snack, but I'm really thankful for your waters because per law with tattoos, I have to have sterilized water. And so he's like, I can just go right here. And I've purchased 4 or 5. I think he's my main water seller because for every client he has to have sterile water. And so now I'm able to understand, so now I have a mandatory need. And so now they can understand a little bit more of consumer behavior. And so even though waters may not sell off the shelf, I know they will go. And I know that I don't need to replace them. And even providing different variety. As I'm having a conversation with the assistant of the owner, I had my first round, I can admit, my first round of chip sales were abysmal. I barely sold anything. And
did
so
you just have the wrong chips? Was that the problem?
You're a very smart man. And so I have a conversation, and one of the co-owners, she says, or assistant, she goes, the chips didn't go so well, but maybe have you tried the bold flavor? I like the spicy Cheetos. I like the spicy jalapenos. Guess what was my first sellout? Spicy
bold. Yeah. That makes me think of that movie. There was a movie about where it became like an ethnic thing where they were trying, it was like a Doritos company or something like that, but they were trying to figure out how to penetrate the Latino community. And basically one of the employees who was Latino came up with an idea. We need to slather them with hot sauce. And if we do that, they'll go from being very to being a big seller. And so I just connected on that movie. I can't remember the name of it, but it is an interesting thing. That really, goes to the idea of knowing your customers, right?
Yeah.
Knowing, just because I don't like hot, bold, spicy, Cheetos or whatever, well, there are people that do. So, whatever. That's so interesting. Okay. Well, good. Well, I wanted to shift gears just a little bit, Justin, and start thinking a little bit bigger picture. We've been diving down into some of the really cool nutsy boltsy things that are so important with growing a vibrant business. But now let's shift gears, turn our brain. Let's go to 3 to 5 years into the future, and we're going to just get in our little teleporter and go 3 to 5 years in the future. Get out of our little machine, walk around, see what it's like. So, tell me a little bit about your scaling roadmap. Like, what does that look like? Are you looking towards like a hub and spoke model? How do you keep the business defensible, right? It strikes me, honestly, vending business strikes me as a very low defensible business, meaning it's hard to defend. It's too easy to get into, but I don't know. You tell me what's on your mind as you think 3 to 5 years into the future.
Yeah. I like to say feet on the ground, eyes in the sky. Where I go, I think where the real money in this is from making this a scalable business. And there are different machines that you can purchase within the vending, such as hot foods, claw machines, right? There are multiple different ways to diversify your investments within the industry. But I would like to diversify, but I would also like to ensure relating it all back to making the most efficient business system that I can. Because if I'm able to do that, now I'm able to hire my part-time workers. If I expand regionally, let's say I have 25 machines within, let's say, a 50-mile radius, right? And so if I have 1 or 2 people able to service those machines, how am I able to limit their access to the structure of the system? How efficiently can I set up my systems to where I am handling the profits, the numbers, the nitty gritty, setting up the grid and the profile, and how can I allow them to simplify the job to where it's you go in, you replace the machine, you replace the products, and then you input that into the system and your job's done. I think one of the things, as I'm sure when you're a manager, when you're a boss, not everyone shares your same interest and your passion for something that you created. So for myself, as I'm learning, is how simple can I make the job? How efficient can I make my system so it's easier for the employees to go in and actually make this a part-time job and not have, invest.
Well, one of the things that just struck me, your other job is, working with teams and student athletes. And I don't know how old they are, but just imagine you worked with a team, maybe they were high school kids, right? And you're like, hey, I'm going to coach you, but hey, do you want a job delivering snacks? You just got your driver's license. I can pay you $10 an hour or whatever you need to pay them. I don't know. I'm just sort of thinking you're going to have access to perhaps a population that would have some interest in like an after school job or whatever.
Right.
So who knows?
Exactly.
Well, good. Well, this has been a ton of fun, Justin, and I really appreciate you taking the time, spending this time together, and it's a great look at the reality of building from the ground up. I love how you're applying high-level systems thinking to a business that most people just take for granted, frankly. So for those listening, this is exactly why we launched Founders Copilot. We know that the leap from an idea to a scalable business is full of complexity. At Personal Finance Reimagined, we act as your strategic partner, okay, to help you navigate that gap, focusing on financial roadmaps and operational systems you need to build long-term wealth. You can see how we help entrepreneurs at financerevamp.com. So anyway, but before we wrap up, Justin, I just wanted to make sure people can follow what you're building. So where can people find more about you? I know you have some social media out there.
Yeah, I do. Before I do, I want to say thank you as well for the opportunity to be able to discuss my business with you and to just have a general discussion and to learn. I think I learn every day when I'm able to have just a simple conversation from you. And I think it's very beneficial from Founders Copilot just to be around other entrepreneurs and people that have done it successfully and to learn. So I wanted to first give my appreciation towards you. In terms of my social media, I am sharing my business and my journey. You can follow me on Instagram at justin.wilson7 and then also on my TikTok at the Justin Wilson Official. Please feel free to follow me and whatever you'd like and to comment and to follow along on my journey as I'm discovering how to grow my business from 1 machine to hopefully 50 or more. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Justin. I'm sure we'll talk soon. Take care of yourself.
Take care.